What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Trisha Sage, who is an energy healer of the violet flame, a healing technique that is a combination of visualization and energy healing, and she has used self-hypnosis and past life regression for years. She's also a best-selling author and writer of magazine articles on metaphysics, parallel universes, alternative realities, ascensions to higher consciousness, and body, mind, spirit topics. Her articles have been published in magazines such as Sedona, Journal of Emergence, The Magical Times, and Watkins Mind Body magazine. Trish Lesage, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
It's fantastic to have you on. Obviously, just before this interview, we've just had a few issues with Skype, so we've decided to do the interview via your cell phone. So apologies for the bad audio. We'll try to keep you turned up as much as possible. Well, Trish, thank you for joining us. And basically, you've done a number of books in the esoteric paranormal. And first of all, Trish, I'd just like to have a bit of background on yourself. What got you involved in looking into these subjects?
Sure. About 10 and a half years ago, I started going through a really profound spiritual awakening. And I believed in the paranormal prior to that, but I really didn't have a whole lot of experiences, or I had experiences as a child with feeling energies and whatnot, but I didn't understand what I was feeling. I was just too young. And I went through a profound spiritual awakening about 10.5 years ago, and started connecting with people online and started reading a lot of books. I'd hang out at the Barnes and Noble bookstores and, check out, buy books and read a lot. And I started journaling my experiences, and then started writing informal blog articles and posting them on Facebook and other social media sites, sharing my experiences and connected with other people. And then I decided, well, maybe I should write some books, because I was having so many experiences, and it seemed like other people were having similar experiences, and the information that I was learning and gathering from these experiences was so interesting and fascinating that I thought others would really enjoy reading about it. So that's pretty much how I got into the metaphysical or paranormal areas.
Right, okay. So let's go to one of your books in regards to parallel universes, because that was the main topic that we were going to cover today. I mean, you've done so many other great books and stuff, and it is a bit difficult just to sort of focus onto one. But before we do as well, I mean, did you ever see yourself writing, so many books?
Pardon?
Did you ever see yourself writing so many books?
Oh, did I ever see myself writing so many books? No, I actually didn't. It's interesting because I didn't plan on writing books at all whatsoever. I was communicating with people and sharing my experiences, and then all of a sudden I thought, well, maybe I could turn the information. So I started writing one book, an idea for another book came, and then another, and then another. So it kind of held me forward.
Right, and okay. So let's then go to the book on parallel universes. What made you want to write such a book when you've only had sort of a newbie to the field as well, in a sense?
Well, it took a lot of courage, to be honest with you, to even write such a book, because the first edition of Traveling the Parallel Universes was pretty much 100% about my own personal experiences of seemingly, stepping over or crossing over into an alternate reality temporarily. And, I was a little bit afraid at first how people would take it, whether they would think I was crazy or not believe or be rude about it, But I eventually wrote a second edition, and it ended up, I included scientific information in the second edition and other people's stories in regards to this phenomenon, and found out that actually the people that are experiencing this, there are common characteristics that they're experiencing, and so I included those in the book as well. So it's more about, not only my experiences, but everybody else's, and then a little bit about what science has been experimenting with and what they've observed in regards to this phenomenon as well.
Right. So just explain to the audience then a bit about your first experience in going to a parallel universe and how this occurred.
Sure. Well, looking back, these experiences, I was having these experiences, whether I realized it or not, several years before I even realized. And one of the first profound experiences that I ever had was I was going to the gym to do some exercise, and my roommate was going to the gym as well, and we drove in separate cars, and we were there doing exercise, and then he left about 10 minutes before me, and he told me that he was going to go home and take a shower, and we could go out to dinner if I wanted to. And so he left and went home, and I left about 10 minutes later. And when I got home, the strangest thing happened. It felt like when I opened the front door and walked through it, I didn't see anything nor hear anything, but it just felt like I was walking through a portal. And it almost felt like time was being manipulated while I was going through this, like a whole bunch of time had passed. It was just a really odd and strange feeling. But when I got home, my roommate was nowhere in sight, and I looked through the house. I walked through, and I noticed that the shower was all wet, as if he had taken a shower, but he was nowhere in sight. And I wondered, well, where in the world did he go? He only left 10 minutes before me. How could he have taken a shower and then left to go somewhere? And about, 10 minutes or so later, he came walking through the door with his dirty gym clothes on, and I asked him where he had been, and he said, he went to put gas in the car before he came home, and he hadn't taken a shower yet. And I thought, well, why is the shower all wet if he hadn't been home yet and hadn't taken a shower yet? We don't live with anybody else. So I quickly ran into the bathroom, and there was no water at all in the bathroom like there was a few minutes prior. The shower was totally dry. There weren't any drops of water in there. So it seemed to me like I was slipping into temporarily an alternate reality. When I first got home, he had taken a shower. The shower was all wet, and he left. He said he left and put gas in the car. But somehow it seemed that I temporarily crossed over into an alternate reality in which now all of a sudden the shower is completely bone dry. He's just coming home in dirty gym clothes and hasn't even taken a shower yet because he put gas in the car first before coming home. So what I first experienced and what happened a few minutes later made no sense to me. And so the next day I did an experiment to see how long does it take for the drops of water in the shower to completely dry, and it took 3 or 4 hours. So there's no way the water that I first saw in the shower when I got home could have completely dried within 10 minutes. So this is just an odd experience that I had, and I've had others in which landmarks completely that were never there near my home before are now there, like trees and different cement slabs and different things that were never there before are now there, and they look weathered like they've been there for years and years, but I know for a fact they've never been there before. So these are some of the things I've experienced, and other people have had similar experiences as well.
So how do you know right now that you're in the universe that you came from?
I actually, to be honest with you, don't believe that I am, which is kind of odd to say that because ever since I wrote the first edition of my books, I've gone through the experience of crossing over into parallel universes or alternate realities many, many times. I mean, I can't even count the times that I've gone through the experience, and it seems like each time that I've been going through it, I usually go, how do I explain this? When you go to a parallel universe that's not of the same energy vibration that your current universe is in, your energy has to be adjusted. Your energy vibration either has to decrease or it has to increase. And I've usually felt on the occasions that I've noticed, my surroundings being a little bit different, I've felt my energy vibration actually being decreased, and so I'll feel like maybe some dense, heavy energy coming to me or negative energy. And I've gone through this several times, so I don't honestly believe that I'm actually where I started, years ago, to be honest with you, if that sounds, kind of strange, but it's honestly how I feel.
Can you note any differences, do you think? Any obvious differences in this universe that you're in now?
Yes, there are differences. A lot of times people's personalities are even different, or they even look a little bit different. I've had situations in which people may look older, have like gray hair and look older, and their personalities may be different. They may be very serious or even rude or sarcastic in one universe, but in another, they might look younger and not even have a gray hair on their head, or they may have a totally different personality, maybe very lighthearted and even joke around and kid around. And so definitely there are differences in people, and there are differences in your surroundings sometimes. I haven't noticed things being completely different. You have to really pay attention to the minor details, but you can definitely notice differences in people and in the landmarks and also alternate histories and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you doing this as well? How are you able? What is your without revealing too much of your secrets? But what is the general technique?
The technique for doing it. Well, to be honest with you, when I first started out doing this, I didn't use any techniques nor anything. It just seemed to happen sporadically and spontaneously. For example, I'd be out taking a walk or driving my car down the road, and interestingly, nobody would ever happen to be around whenever it happened. I would be driving the car down the road at 1 o'clock in the morning and no other car was around, or taking a walk down where I usually take a walk and nobody happens to be around when it happens. So it happened at first spontaneously. It was totally unexpected, but to be honest with you, sometimes you can find yourself in places that aren't very comfortable, like the energy may be uncomfortable, or your situation there might not be as comfortable. So what seems to propel me to another place temporarily is my energy vibration is either increased or decreased. And one way that you can increase your energy vibration is by doing energy healing. If you heal yourself, positive energy or positive light will come into you, and you heal yourself, and your energy vibration will actually increase, and you may temporarily end up in another place, an alternate reality where you notice things being a little bit differently. You could do it, and I wouldn't suggest doing it this way, by attracting through visualization techniques, maybe using hypnosis, attracting negative energy to yourself to lower your energy vibration. But the problem is you don't know exactly where you're going to end up. So it's, in my opinion, not something to really be played around with, to be honest with you, just because of the experiences that I've had.
So let me get this right. Sorry, I didn't really. So the technique is just simplify that. The technique to travel to parallel universes, in your case, is.
It's usually what happens is I end up crossing over temporarily into a parallel universe or alternate reality after I've healed myself with energy healing. Like, for example, if there's some issue that I want to heal myself, like some allergy that I have, or a phobia or something, some issue that I want to heal myself with, I use energy healing. And I notice that when I do that, I temporarily cross over into an alternate reality. I notice that things are different,
right.
People are different, landmarks are different, or whatever.
Right, and when you say energy healing, what you mean is you're through meditative healing, or what technique would you use?
That is one technique you can use, but I usually use what's known as the violet flame, and that's an energy healing technique. It combines visualization and energy healing. So you can do it with your eyes open or closed, or even while using meditation or hypnosis or during waking consciousness. And so that's one technique that a person could use. And there probably are also visualization techniques that people can use. Another lady, author, friend of mine, Cynthia Sue Larson, wrote a book called Quantum Jumps, and she actually includes some techniques in her book about crossing over into parallel universes or alternate realities, like focusing on how you want your life to be, which reality you want to be in, and putting some positive energy behind it, like happiness, or focusing on the love that you have. And she also has people visualize doing a handshake between yourself and your future self, agreeing with your future self to go to that particular place that's better. Like, for example, if a person wants to get a certain job or something, the idea is, and maybe if the opportunity isn't available here in this universe, maybe it's available to you somewhere else, because she operates on the many worlds theory, in which scientists believe, or theoretical physicists believe, that every decision we make branches off like a tree, and there are different decision points that could lead us down certain paths. And so their idea or thoughts are that when we make a certain decision and we head down a certain path, different opportunities might be available to us that might not be available here in this universe where we are. And so her technique focuses on a person visualizing and focusing their intention on being where they want to be, and actually putting some positive energy behind it to propel them there to that actual alternate reality.
That's incredible. So it's kind of like, well, it could be, for example, when we use the law of attraction, what we're actually doing is, we're saying that we are already that. So rather than saying, I want to be rich, we are rich, we pull it to us. Are you potentially saying that maybe we're crossing over to a parallel universe when we, potentially could you even use law of attraction? Or I'm trying not to put words in your mouth, but I mean, is that a possibility?
It's very similar, because I know I'm not totally familiar with the law of attraction, but I actually had written an article at one point about it, because the late author Dolores Cannon had written or done a video on the law of attraction, and she said that if you want to be rich, what she said was act and behave as if you already are rich, and put it in your mind that you already are rich. Don't put it out there, your thoughts out there in the future that someday you will be rich. Say that you are rich now. And I, don't necessarily want to be a millionaire or anything, but I went through some financial difficulties in the past, and I really genuinely needed some help. And I used her technique, and I actually could feel energy being placed in motion to make it happen, to attract the financial resources to me. So I believe that, the law of attraction, even when we can tap into it and feel into it, can, propel us into the direction that we want to go. And so it's really hard, unless you pay attention to the minor details of everything, to know, have you in fact just simply use the law of attraction to attract financial success to yourself here in this universe, or did you actually go to an alternate reality or parallel universe where the resources are there for you? And a person would really have to pay attention to the minor details, like, are the people different all of a sudden? Are your surroundings a little bit different? And that's how you could probably tell between, is it just the law of attraction manifesting itself here in this universe, or did you actually go somewhere else for it to manifest?
Absolutely incredible. So by using your technique of the violet flame, it must have been a bit of a shock to you when this first happened.
Definitely it was, and it took a while, to be honest with you, for me to even piece everything together to figure out what was happening, because, at first, you question yourself, am I remembering things correctly? Because when you temporarily go to these different universes, sometimes there are alternate histories, what the events that happened on that timeline or in that alternate reality aren't, necessarily exactly how events happened in the past that you experienced. And so what is quite interesting is, you can end up over in those universes and then have a totally different set of memories that start feeding into your mind. And so, seeing different landmarks and experiencing different alternate realities and people's personalities and even their appearances being a little bit different, at first it can be very shocking, and it's interesting because you're questioning whether or not you remembered things correctly. Did such and such an event happen in a certain way, or am I remembering things incorrectly? You start to question yourself, but then it happens so many times that beyond a doubt that you're experiencing something more than a faulty memory, and so it is very interesting and shocking at first when it happens, but when it starts happening over and over again to yourself and other people, that there's definitely a strange phenomenon that's occurring.
Yes, absolutely. And is this kind of like interdimensional travel in a sense, where it's the same space, but it's as though you're dimensionally in another place?
It's very similar because, in a sense, these parallel universes, from what I have found, they seem to exist at a different energy vibration. So, for example, you could be on the third dimension, Earth, which is said to exist in the third dimension, but if, your energy vibration is decreased and, you end up falling outside of that third dimension energy vibration range, and your energy vibration, say, is now down at 2.5 or something, you might end up in a universe that has a lower energy vibration, and you're no longer in the third dimension anymore. So it can definitely happen and be similar to interdimensional travel, and even on a physical level such as this.
So do you think this is potentially what we're seeing when people see unidentified flying objects? Are these interdimensional parallel universe objects, do you think?
I think that in some cases that could actually be the case, because it's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the characteristics that people seem to experience when they experience this parallel universe phenomenon is objects and people and animals tend to appear from out of nowhere, from out of thin air, and they also tend to vanish into thin air. And sometimes they're there for just a few brief seconds, they're there temporarily, and then they vanish without a trace. So I think that definitely when people see these unidentified flying objects, that, it could be a case of they're actually here in our dimension, or it might be a case of interdimensional travel, or something that's coming from a parallel universe even.
It makes you almost think, doesn't it, just how many, dimensions there are, because, when I've interviewed authors about the spirit realm, for example, some have said that the realms are infinitive, that there are many mansions there, many realms, infinitive realms. Could this be the same potentially, as we talk about, parallel universes, different dimensions? This is all the same thing we're talking about.
It's very similar, because there are many, like you mentioned, many realms. And from what I've experienced, these parallel universes, can be come into existence or be in existence, many, many, times over. It seems like there's really, no telling or no limit to how many there can be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, when we think about the universe, it's impossible to think about infinity. But, potentially that's what the universe is. It's never ending. But then we factor in the idea of a parallel or interdimensional travel, a parallel universe, and infinite parallel universes potentially. How the heck is that working? And what size and shape then is the universe?
Right. It really, you said what size? About the size of the universe?
Yes, when you factor in, the parallel universes.
Exactly. Yes, it just, it's very mind-boggling, to be honest with you, because, all of these universes that, could exist, and a lot of the theoretical physicists believe, that there's a multiverse, actually, that contains all of these universes in it, and I explained it a little bit in the new edition of my book, Traveling the Parallel Universes, but I honestly believe that there's not only a multiverse, there's more than one multiverse, and each one contains universes in them. And there's a reason why I kind of feel this way, just because of the way I've experienced this parallel universes phenomenon. So I think that the size is very immense, to be honest with you, whether it's, just one multiverse or whether it's several different ones. I mean, it's just very mind-boggling how immense it all must be.
I wonder what it's kind of saying about the nature of our reality in the kind of lives that we live. How could this information help improve the way we're living in the moment, do you think?
Well, I think, from what I've found, and also I have read books by the author, Dr. Michael Newton. He wrote Destiny of Souls and Journey of Souls, and he even mentions alternate realities and parallel universes in his book. For those who aren't familiar with him, he does hypnosis and past life regression, but he also does lives between lives regression, which is he regresses people and their soul memories back to the point of where they were before they incarnated into this current life that they're living, in the spirit world or in heaven. And some people that he's worked with have all sorts of advanced knowledge, even about parallel universes and everything. And what he states in his book, and I would tend to agree with what he says, is that, parallel universes do come into existence. He said that they're even created, by beings that are way beyond, the human level, and that they come into existence for a purpose, and usually it is for soul growth and soul learning. And so I guess what I could bring away from all of this is that, with this parallel universes phenomenon, is that, it's all about, we're here to learn and to evolve our consciousness, and it's all about soul growth. And so it all ties into the parallel universes phenomenon. We're supposed to be evolving our consciousness and being the best people that we can be, and that's pretty much how it all ties in together, because some of these parallel universes, as I've found, and I believe others have found as well, they're different. The people that are there, even if they're duplicate copies of each and every one of us, sometimes the energies in some of the universes are darker than in others, and sometimes some of the people seem lesser evolved in one place versus another, and sometimes the souls are younger. They act like younger souls, in one place versus older souls in another. So I think that these universes probably exist as Dr. Newton found as well, for soul growth. And so that's pretty much how it all ties together.
Well, isn't that just incredible what you're saying, in the sense that it's almost like this reality is false, yeah? And I'm not saying it doesn't have consequences, but it's almost like it's being created like a nursery or garden for us to have experience. And there's many nurseries and gardens and simulations, yeah, to go and have a experience on almost like the holodeck on the Star Trek Enterprise. And it's almost like as well is that the soul, from what you're saying, then it must split. The soul splits into multiple versions of itself to have to have multiple experiences or incarnations at simultaneous times in other simultaneous dimensions. I mean, that's kind of where it's leading to, surely.
It definitely, our soul, our oversoul, as I like to say it, can divide into several different parts, and those several different parts, we're one of them, but it can divide into other parts, and those other souls can go out and lead independent lives that are totally different from ours, in a totally different place, in an alternate reality somewhere, or even here on our current Earth. It's kind of like if you've ever if earthworm has ever been severed, if you've ever seen it be severed, it now becomes two worms, and both parts are still alive, and they go out and live their own independent lives. It's kind of like that. The oversoul can separate and divide into individual souls, and we're just one of those souls that it can potentially divide into.
Yes, it's pretty incredible what the subject matter here. And if we just looking at this from a different perspective as well, when people say they've been abducted, for example, and they've gone to other planets within our solar system, and they say this, these planets are teeming with life, yet we look at them with our microscopes, our telescopes, we find nothing. Now, there's either three things really. Either there is nothing, or our governments are lying to us, or on another dimension, in that same space, there is other civilizations that we just don't see because we don't perceive them interdimensionally. We just see the space as we occupy it now. But if you saw the space from with different dimensional eyes, you would see that same space is teeming with life.
I totally agree, because, what I've found from my experiences with this parallel universes phenomenon is that most of the time these universes are lined up, one right on top of each other, superimposed, one right on top of each other, and we don't perceive the other ones that are superimposed over ours, and that's because our energy vibration matches our universe, not theirs, and so we can't perceive theirs until our energy vibration starts to change enough to match theirs, and then that's when people start to see, objects appearing and disappearing sometimes. Either they're crossing over temporarily into our universe, or we're actually changing our energy vibration enough to cross over somewhere else. So it's very, very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. So when people have said before my time, heaven is on earth, perhaps it is because in the same space, but in another dimension, heaven is on earth. When we pass on, we're just going to a much higher dimension that's in this space right now. We're not floating up towards the clouds. It's here, as we sit here now. Someone else is in our space as well. Multiple dimensional people, creatures, whatever you may want to call it, occupy the same space that me and you sit in right now.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And I think that probably accounts for a lot of even ghost sightings as well. They're said to occupy the ghost plane, but the ghost plane is right here where we are, and sometimes they cross our space, and sometimes we cross theirs, but it's right here. It's not off anywhere different from where we are.
Yes, yes, and could this be the reason, for example, when planes go missing and, sometimes they're never found, and, when people go missing and they're never found, and other anomalies that happen, or strange mysteries that can't be solved, potentially?
I think that's actually the case when strange things do happen like that, when planes just completely vanish or ships completely vanish and with no trace to be found whatsoever of them, and nor of the people or anything. I think that sometimes, you never know. They could be slipping into some sort of a portal or to go somewhere else. And so I think definitely that some otherworldly phenomena, could be happening in those cases.
What about the case then of parallel universes set in different time periods?
In a different time period. Yeah, there are cases of that as well. And Dr. Michael Newton also mentions that in his books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. And I've also had experiences with that. I haven't physically crossed over temporarily into those alternate realities, but I have had experiences when I was using past life regression and hypnosis with those. And basically what happened was, apparently, what we were talking about, the oversoul, the main soul that we are, apparently mine had splintered off into another soul that's living in an alternate reality in another time period. And what was interesting is that I was having thoughts and preferences and likes and urges that made no sense at all whatsoever to my current life. For example, I just all of a sudden one day felt like I wanted to go out and buy wigs and wear wigs on my head. I didn't do it, but I felt that way. And then I felt the need to go out and buy long, thick eyelashes, and it made no sense to me why I would be feeling that way. I didn't need that for my current life, but when I did some hypnosis work, I found out that my oversoul had splintered off into another soul that was living another life on another timeline or in another reality, in which that soul was actually in a different time period back in the 1960s, and she was a successful singer, and so she was up on the stage. And of course, back in the 60s, they wore, a lot of wigs, and they wore those beehive, type hairstyles. And, up on the stage, she was wearing false eyelashes. And so her life experiences were bleeding through into mine. And so that's one experience that I've had with different time periods actually bleeding through into my life. And so I know, that there have to be, alternate realities and parallel universes that are actually set into, different time periods other than our own time period.
Absolutely, and oh God, this is so amazing. Differences in animals as well. Is there such a thing where animals can be different in different parallel universes, do you think?
It's definitely, I've noticed that because I spend a lot of time every day out in nature taking care of wildlife. And I also, I have a cat, and my family members have animals. And what I've noticed from one universe to another is that, especially domesticated pets, their personalities can be totally different from one universe to another. They could be skittish and scared in one universe and be really friendly and not scared at all in another universe. And I've even noticed differences in wildlife, animals that I've been with every day, having totally different personalities when I go elsewhere. And the only difference with the wildlife, however, is that sometimes they are not duplicated from one universe to another. sometimes they're there in another universe and sometimes they're not. But with the domesticated pets, I've never encountered them not always being there from one universe to another.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they're still there, but just with different personalities as well. And I suppose people's memories as well. When if you've crossed over to an alternative reality, for example, parallel universe, can people's memories obviously be different, can't they?
Yes, they can definitely be different, and it's, mainly due to the fact that alternate histories could exist in a parallel universe, so the actual events that took place in that universe or on that timeline could be completely different from the memories that you experienced years ago on the timeline or in the parallel universe that you were in. And so those people there could have completely different memories of what happened in the past, or their memories could be slightly different or even exactly the same. So definitely, with the alternate histories that tend to take place in the parallel universes, people's memories can be different. And, I've found that it doesn't make any sense for me to argue, with people over what's right and wrong as a memory, because for them, they actually experience something totally different, so they're just as right as I am.
Yeah, yeah. And would you say that, for example, tech gadgets maybe, when you've crossed over before, did you ever see any difference in sort of gadgets, electronics, and things of that nature?
Yes, definitely. I've noticed differences, especially with malfunctioning gadgets and electronic devices. It seemed like about a year ago I crossed over into a universe temporarily, and it just seemed like electronics in my home and also my family members' electronics, the same issues with washers and dryers and cars, the same issues, having trouble with the electronic windows. It just was really strange because it seemed like everybody was having issues with the same exact electronic, devices and the same exact issues. So definitely there can be differences, and that you notice from one place to another.
So basically, we shouldn't be scared, though, should we? That if any of these symptoms or these occurrences do happen to us, if we recognize it, that we say to ourselves, I wonder if this is a parallel universe I've entered into. How do you get back to your previous universe?
That's really tricky because usually, it would be hard to get back unless you really, do some meditation or hypnosis and focus your intent on getting back to your original universe, or you could use the violet flame and, heal the situation of you're not going back to your original universe. And if you heal that situation of you're not going back to your original universe, it would actually give you the energy that you need through the healing to send you back to your original universe. But usually what I've found to be the case is that we usually end up back where we started anyways. Anytime I've actually tried to leave to go elsewhere, it seems like you end up back where you started, usually. It seems like there's some sort of a automatic mechanism that seems to take you back to where it is you started, and it's probably has to do with the fact that, it all depends on what your energy vibration is. And even though our energy can change, temporarily, depending on what it is we've experienced, our overall energy vibration depends on the spiritual growth that we've attained. And so that's my theory as to why we probably would eventually end up back where we started.
But what, for example, then, if you're trying to manifest a different life, you're trying to attract towards you a different things in your life in the moment, and you do attract those things, and potentially you've crossed over to another parallel universe, you wouldn't be going back then, would you? Back to your original universe? You wouldn't want to go back, would you? So therefore, do you think the soul has a choice to go back or not in cases like that?
I think there's definitely, on a level that we might not be aware of, on a waking conscious level even, maybe our higher self or our oversoul may make the choice. Or even, for those who believe in spirit guides, there may be some other beings or some other part of us that may eventually make the choice of where we end up, whether or not we should go back to where we originally started or whether we should go somewhere else. Because it's really interesting, because sometimes it might not be the ideal situation anymore to stay where we originally were, or, to stay where we temporarily cross over into. And so I think, some mechanism must be in place that, makes sure that we are where we're supposed to be.
But then you look at these ancient civilizations where, like the Mayans, for example, where they just all vanished. Where did they go? Some have said that they transitioned to another reality, to another dimension. They never came back.
Which people?
I think it was the Mayans.
Oh, the Mayans, yes. It's really interesting because I had an experience once because I wondered what happened to them. And so I used some self-hypnosis, and I tried to find the answer, but I was totally blocked from finding out any further information.
Wow.
And I was told that they did not ascend to the fifth dimension or higher consciousness, but I was not allowed any further access to any information to find out what exactly happened to them. And what is interesting is that I never told this to anyone. And then my sister had written an email to a gentleman named Owen Waters, who was writing a newsletter called Infinite Being, and she asked him about the Mayan Indians, and he told her that he once tried to find out what happened to them and was blocked access to the information. So I honestly don't know what happened to the Mayan Indians, and it seems like whenever people try to access information about it, they're blocked from knowing for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. And so that's, a very interesting case.
That is an interesting case. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Do you take groups nowadays into parallel universes?
I don't take groups into parallel universes, and it's mainly because I don't specialize in the technique, because when this phenomenon first started happening to me, it just happened spontaneously. And now I don't actually use techniques to go from one universe to another. And the reason why I don't is just because I usually end up returning back where I came from anyways, and then also not all of the places that I've gone to have been very pleasant, and because it's very hard to know where one may end up, I just don't play around with it even on a personal basis, so that's why I don't offer it on a group basis neither.
Right. Have you ever gone
But there are people out there that do offer meditation-type experiences. I believe Bert Goldman, if I'm remembering his name correctly, is the one who offers like a meditative type of an experience.
Well, who is that, sorry?
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's Bert Goldman. It's either Goldberg or Goldman.
Dr. Bruce Goldberg.
Yes.
Right. Yes, Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Yes, I know who you're referring to as well. Well, yeah. Well, this is just, it's one of my it's a favorite subject. This is right now. Have you ever gone to a universe where there's been some sort of apocalyptic wars or?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
Have you ever gone to a universe where there's been sort of, any wars of such?
Oh, wars. Interestingly, no, I have not. Other than it seems like whatever usually is happening on a large scale like that from in one universe, it's happening in another universe. But I must say what I've noticed, and I don't believe I even included this in my book, that it's interesting because the further you go down to lower energy vibration universes, it seems like, younger souls are there. And it seems like whoever is in charge, I guess I could say, doesn't give us more than what we can handle. So it seems like to me when you go to lower universes, lower energy vibration universes, because a lot of times the souls are younger there, those universes don't seem to experience as many major catastrophes as the universes that are at a higher energy vibration, which sounds strange. You would think the opposite would happen, but it's just that we're given what we can handle, and younger souls more than likely aren't going to be able to handle.
Sure.
Constant major catastrophes happening. So that's what I've experienced, with this phenomenon.
No, that makes absolute perfect sense. So what would you say is one of the most important messages from your work?
I think the most important message that I could give to people, because I wrote a book on fifth dimension consciousness too, going to higher consciousnesses, and it ties in with the parallel universes as well. We should all just focus on being the best people that we can be, and not, in a materialistic, monetary sense, but being focused on, monitoring our actions that we take and the words that we speak, and trying to, be more positive and focusing on being better people, because I really believe if each and every one of us takes those steps, that can help to lead us all, even on a, humanity level, to a better place, actually.
Completely agree with you. And how can people get hold of your book? Because I understand that Amazon might not be the best place. Are they better to go directly to yourself?
Yes, they can find out information about my books by visiting my website, and that's beyond3dbooks.com. It's beyond and then the actual number 3D, like davidbooks.com, so beyond3dbooks.com. And I don't have the books available on Amazon anymore due to some issues, but the books are available on my website, and actually the company Create Space ships the books out, and that is actually Amazon's sister companies, and they can ship, worldwide. So
okay, so if they
order
it from
about my books there.
Sure. So if they order it from your website, then you will ship.
Correct.
You will ship worldwide for that. Wonderful.
Right.
Right. Okay. No, thank you for that. Well, Trish, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know it's gone so quickly, but I've got to say I'm really fascinated and intrigued and really respect the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. It was really interesting. I'm hoping, everybody enjoyed it and got something out of it.
Absolutely. Well, I know I did, and I know other people will as well. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on today.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.